If you're not already subscribed to this YouTube channel, go ahead and hit the subscribe button now, along with the bell icon so you can be notified whenever a new video is posted. And if you're already subscribed, check and make sure the YouTube hasn't unsubscribed you. And of course, be sure to give the video a like as well as share it on your social media. The white supremacists hate that. And now, the Sunday address.
You're not coming in. You're not coming in. Simple as that. You're not coming into our sacred spaces. You're not coming in.
This is sacred ground.
You're not coming in. You're not coming in.
Why not? Why can't I come in? Because I said you're not.
This is Larry Krasner's town hall at Mother Bethel Church at Society Hill.
Sacred spaces. You're not coming to our sacred spaces.
Where were you yesterday? Where were you yesterday?
You're not coming in our sacred spaces. Simple as that. Because I said you're not coming in. I'm saying you're not coming in.
You have no right to tell me.
You're not coming in.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
You're not coming in our sacred space. You'll see what it means. I don't care. You'll see what it means to come up in here. You're going to see what it means.
He said don't threaten people. Don't threaten people, he said. Don't threaten people.
We were trying to come to the event. They denied us entry. They have a human wall. They have the blue wall.
You touch me, dude, we're gonna have a problem. Did let you know. Don't touch me.
You need
Here, black arm job.
You need them. The fake DA. You need
Not
them. Watch
touching.
it was also.
Spread your hands out. Goodbye. Don't touch us either, man.
This is a party of inclusivity. These people are clowns. Is that a threat?
They kept y'all safe.
Oh, that's a hateful.
Yeah, they kept
No,
you
it's not.
safe.
That's the truth.
They kept us safe.
We can handle our own. They kept you safe.
They can handle
You
their
were
own.
kept safe, not us.
The third one. So we can.
We go to when we want to worship, okay? If you want to come and make
You're
a clown
worshiping
out of it,
Larry
do it
Krasner?
in your own.
We were trying to come to the event. They denied us entry. They have a human wall. They have the blue wall.
You touch me, dude, we're gonna have a problem. Did let you know. Don't touch me.
You need
Here,
them.
black arm job.
You need them. The fake DA. You need
Not
them. Watch
touching.
it was also.
Spread your hands out. Goodbye. Don't touch us either, man.
This is a party of inclusivity. These people are clowns. Is that a threat?
They kept y'all safe.
That's a hateful.
Yeah, they kept
No,
you
it's not.
safe.
That's the truth.
They kept us
our
safe.
own. We can handle our own. They kept you safe.
They can handle
You
their
were
own.
kept safe, not us.
The third one. So we can.
We go to when we want to worship, okay?
There was an old song called The Devil Went Down to Georgia. Well, in this case, the devil went up to Philly. This clown actually wandered into a house of God, and he thought that they were obligated to let him in. And you had a white cop say, "You can't stop him, you gotta let him in." Now, the people ignored him, and rightly so. The name of this church is Mother Bethel AME Church in Philadelphia. Now, the reason for this clown trying to make this commotion is the DA, Larry Krasner, was speaking there. And on a side note, if a belligerent white right-winger trying to barge his way into a black church sounds familiar, it should. Even the name is similar. Remember, Mother Emanuel AME Church in Charleston was where Dylan Roof carried out a mass murder. And now you got this creep. Given his behavior and given the history, he ought to be glad that the parishioners didn't take steps to protect themselves because they would have been well within their rights. And of course, you won't be surprised to learn that this wasn't this clown's first time pulling this stunt. Just a few days earlier, this same ranting lunatic had already disrupted a town hall that the DA was conducting at another church. So this guy is basically bouncing around, following the DA and trying to make a spectacle of himself so he can get some attention. He's supposed to have some little organization that he claims to have, and obviously this is supposed to be his funding outreach, anything to get his name on the map, right? And of course you had this white cop who was there yelling and saying, "You got no right to tell him he can't come in." The people there rightly ignored that donut-chomping moron. He's not even paying attention to the hostile white man who's trespassing and trying to barge his way into someone else's church. He's focusing on barking at the black people who are protecting their space. This is white cops showing that they're the enforcement arm of white supremacy, but as they saw, the arm has no muscle. They did the right thing. This guy already showed that the only thing he's trying to do is to disrupt those town halls. He's not there to actually listen. And on top of that, the DA has no obligation to debate him at all. He wants to debate the DA. He should run for office and have a political debate. That's how it should be done. But that's what these guys are about. Instead of taking the conservatives' own advice of respecting the views of other people, instead this wannabe clout-chasing creep was trying to get some clicks by saying he was going to debate the DA in a church. He didn't even bother to get the church's permission to be there. This is what I was telling you guys about. Everyone knows that these right-wing blowhards like Charlie Kirk and others have mega millionaires and even billionaires bankrolling their operation. There's a lot of stupid money from the white right that you can tap into if you're willing to say the right stuff. People like Ben Shapiro and others got paid off of that. And now that Kirk got murked, there's a lot of wannabe successors crawling out of the woodwork, desperately trying to get attention by auditioning to be the next Charlie Kirk, when what they really want is to get the millions of dollars in white dark money that he was getting. That's what all of this stupidity in public is about. Now, this is the exact same white right that claims to care so much about religion and Christianity and maintaining the sanctity of sacred spaces like the Christian church, and yet you have this moron running in like any other filthy heathen and acting like he owns the place. White privilege at its finest. But as I've always told you, nothing happens in a vacuum under white supremacy, because at the same time that this clown was making a nuisance of himself in Philadelphia, over in Tennessee, you had some maggots who called themselves gonna post up at Tennessee State University, an HBCU, and they were going to be harassing the kids on campus. Now, these guys did not have permission to be there, and they kept trying to make some sort of pathetic, feeble argument that, well, this place gets state money, so I should be able to be here and you can't stop me. No, stupid. Just because somebody gets state money does not mean that their place becomes a public accommodation, which is what this idiot was probably trying to hint at. These morons don't actually learn the law because as far as they're concerned, they're white and that means anything they say goes. Now, these trespassers, who nobody knew if they were armed or not, were there without authorization, and they tried to call themselves setting up shop as if they owned the place. All they were there for was just to harass the black students. Never mind the fact that just a few weeks ago, the ideological kin, if not these individuals themselves, were threatening these HBCUs. That's the part that gets left out. You got to connect the dots. These guys didn't just show up out of the blue. The white supremacists hate the fact that they got run off campus because it's black people exercising power over them and telling them where they can and cannot go. That's the humiliation in it for them. That's what the Mayo militia is really angry about. Black people are seen telling white people what will and will not go. And they did that as a group. They sat there, as far as they were concerned, it was their worst nightmare. Black folks on code running the white supremacists out. See, as the white right, and left, truth be told, see it, if they tell you as a black person something, if they demand something of you, they say, come over here, boy, I want to have a word with you, then you're supposed to do it because they're your superior, right? But not only did these black kids refuse to debate these clowns, they refused to even allow these scumbags to be there. And that's the right response. And remember, the threats coming from the white right on Charlie Kirk's behalf began long before he was killed. Charlie Kirk and his neo-Nazi pals had a campaign going to attack and threaten black professors and university personnel. It was Charlie Kirk's so-called professor watch list. It was actually a list of people the white right wanted their unhinged and violent minions to harass and threaten, and they hoped even kill some of them. When you see things like the harassment and abuse of black children in schools, like what I showed you in Friday's crime report, that's what the white right's trying to encourage. That's the plan. They have racists like DeSantis and others carrying out a non-stop drumbeat of anti-black vitriol and lying through their buck teeth with phony made-up claims that white students are being maligned or what have you. And that's specifically meant to embolden and encourage some white supremacist to carry out an act of violence. They're not just saying it for the sake of saying it. It is specifically meant to encourage a violent act of some sort. That's the entire purpose of doing it. So no, these clowns don't want to debate. If they did, then they would pay to invite a black academic or pundit to come to a venue that they paid for or got permission for, and they would do it there. You don't just pop up out of the blue, say, I'm going to go ahead and set up a fold-up table. Now someone needs to debate me. That's like the behavior of a crazy person in the town square, except a university campus is not the town square. And you never see any black people calling themselves bums rushing some white church and saying, I don't like what the pastor's saying, or you had some politician who's doing a town hall and I demand to debate him after I got through screaming and yelling at him just a few days ago. You never see black people doing stuff like that. See, the problem for the white right, especially where colleges and universities are concerned, is that the white right totally failed to create institutions that have any prestige or any credibility. This is the reason why you hear the white right claiming that they lost the culture. What they really mean is they lost the war of ideas. That's what they really mean. So now what they're trying to do is they're trying to use legislative fiat to say, well, in that case, then we're just going to go ahead and shut down anything that we don't like. We lost the war of ideas. We lost the culture. We lost the narrative. And that being the case, we're just going to say no more narrative, no more culture, no more anything. It's just going to be white fiat. That's what this is about. When you've lost the culture, when you've lost the war of ideas, well, you have to do stuff like this, bums rushing places that actually do represent the culture. These places that the white right likes to talk about, like Hillsdale College, these places are recognized by everyone, left and right, to be nothing more than diploma mills, the equivalent of a vanity project for wannabe academics on the right. DeSantis whines and complains, hell, when is he not whining, that there's a liberal indoctrination going on in universities. But DeSantis is himself a graduate from Yale, and he never renounces that. And where did DeSantis send his kids for college? He sent them to Yale too. Meanwhile, his takeover of that university in Florida, the new college, and putting morons like Chris Rufo in charge of it, how well has that panned out for making these places into go-to institutions for higher learning? Enrollment at the new college plummeted after the takeover, and at this point it's been exposed as nothing more than a half-baked land grab by some wannabe conservative bureaucrats. There's been no financial transparency going on there, and mark my words, predictably, inevitably in time, there's going to be some enormous scandal about how that place became nothing more than a money laundering operation, the same way Brett Favre and his pals did at that university in Mississippi. Higher education run by the lowest idiots. The white right in particular has always had an inferiority complex where young people in schools and churches are concerned, and there's good reason for that. White power is largely about assuring the power and position of old white men at the expense of everyone else, including younger white people. They've come to hate the church as an institution because black people established moral authority through that very same church. And white power also hates education because an educated population are harder to control. This is why when the white right in particular are in charge of a school system, the very first thing that they do is to narrow the curriculum, because they don't understand the material themselves and they don't want anyone else to understand it either. And then they send their unlearned and unwashed minions to black houses of learning, not to be students, but to regurgitate their asinine anti-black talking points. And while there's been a lot of black people who have been asking how come these clowns didn't pull these stunts at some white Ivy League university, well, there's something you need to remember. These colleges that claim to be allegedly liberal, that's actually what the conservatives say. They're the ones who say that. The colleges themselves deny it, and they're right. They're not liberal at all. They are actually right-leaning. They're definitely anti-black. And yet these same liberal universities have for decades allowed racist professors and administrators to engage in all manner of open anti-black rhetoric and material. And they would claim that these racists have tenure and hence cannot be fired. And even if they could, well, we have to be allowed to have an open dialogue and an open exchange of ideas. But the only idea that they're interested in having exchanged is anti-black ideas. On the other hand, on the rare occasion when a black professor decides that there's some controversial ideas about white society that they want to exchange, then all of a sudden their tenure's in danger. This agitprop that the white right is doing has been going on these university campuses for decades. This is not new. They made it clear that colleges and universities are a safe space for anti-black rhetoric. These colleges and universities have eagerly defended it. It was actually so-called leftist academics at these schools who were the main ones saying that you got to allow these people to say unpopular things. But the attitude only went one way. And if you said something about white society or about a non-black constituency, then they'd be quick to say that goes beyond the pale. Remember, the entire reason that men like Dr. Leonard Jeffries and Khalid Muhammad were demonized, vilified, and defamed by the white media was because of universities. Khalid Muhammad gave a lecture in 1993 at Keene College, which was what prompted certain Jewish figures to demand that Louis Farrakhan denounce him and effectively expel him from the Nation of Islam. Dr. Leonard Jeffries was a professor at City College in New York, and a speech he gave, which was off campus by the way, led to him being fired, despite the fact that he had tenure. Jeffries famously sued and won and got his old job back, but the point is that they made it clear that tenure only protects white professors, and only so long as they're attacking, or as they would put it, exploring controversial ideas regarding black people. Leonard Jeffries went out of his way to avoid making his remarks synonymous with City College or giving them any sort of grounds to come at him, but that didn't matter. He didn't say what he said at the school or at any other school, but their problem was that he even said it at all. And no one from the allegedly free speech-loving white right said a word on his behalf. Nobody was saying, in the pursuit of truth, we have to allow even the ugliest of lies. There must be an exchange of all ideas, or otherwise, how do we learn anything? Nobody was talking like that. What they demand are safe spaces for anti-black hate. And when they see a place where it's not allowed, they try to bogart their way in. And it says a lot that it was the kids at Tennessee State University who had to lead the charge on this one. The faculty and administration, they should have been all over that. But they weren't. And that tells you everything you need to know about the leadership at those places. Those white right-wingers should never have been allowed to walk out. They should have been arrested. They should have left in handcuffs. But as the leadership of these HBCUs see it, their real job is to try to bring in as much money as they can, and that means, well, you don't want to ruffle the feathers of any of these people who you're depending on getting money from. And that means go ahead and let the students be targets for these guys, because, well, what really matters is the money. Now, as I said at the beginning of this Sunday address, we all know what the real reason is for this. These clowns are here trying to get clicks for their pathetic social media. Charlie Kirk did this routine, and they're all copying him because white supremacy has no new material, no new ideas, so they just keep doing the same thing, only more of it. Meanwhile, the so-called black leadership is MIA right now, and that's deliberate. They're part and parcel of the white Democrat plot to allow white supremacists to attack us, not only to roll back the reforms and changes that we've already forced on the system, but also to try to pressure us into going back to our previous political passivity and stop making any demands. See, that's been what's a game changer recently. It's not a matter so much of any laws that are on the books, because you saw in 2020 with the uprisings, black people forced demands on the system with no laws being changed. We went from the DAs saying, we can't prosecute anyone because, after all, they say they're scared for their life. I mean, the Supreme Court said after the uprisings of 2020, okay, here's the indictments and here's the convictions. Yeah, black people started actually exercising power the right way. And it's as black people have become more and more strident in making sure that we get our way, that's when we started getting this consistent one-note message from the DNC. Anyone who's going to make substantive demands, well, you're a Russian bot. See, remember they tried that one, Joke Reed and others? But that failed, so now they switched to saying, these people who are on the fringe, we can't listen to them, when the reality is the last time Democrats actually won elections was in 2020 when the so-called fringe carried out a nationwide uprising. Even then, you had trash like Negro Jim Clyburn complaining as if Democrats had lost the election, never mind the fact that Democrats had a clean sweep. They got the presidency, the House, and the Senate, but you couldn't tell by the way Jim Clyburn was complaining. The only thing he could point to, though, to justify his whining was his ridiculous hand-picked boy, Jaime Harrison, losing his Senate race, which everybody already knew from the beginning was going to happen. You run a loser candidate, and you lose the election. And that's the reason why the Democrats are not saying anything about these recent incursions by the white right into black spaces. This is what the reprobates on the right are up to, but you notice that no Democrats are trying to use this right-wing performative extremism as a political platform. None of them are running on a slate of legislation to curtail these creeps and to hem them up. But they did vote for a resolution to honor Charlie Kirk. Now that they would actually get behind. They were behind that legislation. The white right is making a dangerous nuisance of themselves, but nobody in the Democratic Party wants to capitalize on that politically, almost as if they want it to happen, in the desperate hopes that it will make black people stop making demands. Because then they hope we'll just be willing to settle for Democrats being back in charge, and hopefully this will demoralize the white right a little bit. No, action is what's called for here, not more empty words. Because the black grassroots remembers that the Mother Emanuel Church massacre happened on Obama's watch. And what did he do about that? So don't whine at me that the white right is waging a war on democracy when Democrats are making it clear they're not going to do anything to stop them. That's why as black people, we're not going to debate these scumbags. When they show up, tell them bounce. And if they can't find the exit, then show it to them. Always be the summoner, never the summoned. If there's to be any sort of contact with this garbage, then it will be at a time and place of our choosing, and we will be the ones who control who gets to speak. It's way past time that black people started making it a habit to get in these racist faces to push back and let them know we will tell them what's going to go, not the other way around. The entire point of running these scumbags out is so that everybody understands they have no right to speak to black people. Nobody has any right to speak to us. And we have no obligation to listen to them. And if these guys predictably have a very hard time understanding this pig-simple reality, that's fine. We will be only too glad to educate them. Good evening, and be one. I'd like to take a moment to mention some of our contributors: Aaron, Gwendolyn Langston, Rhonda Handsome, Jerome Simmons, and Christopher Ellis. Salute to them and thank you to everyone for listening, liking, and sharing this message. Black empowerment only exists because of you.